speaking to pay? I thought you said that you was gonna pay me under the table. They're taking taxes out of my check, and I ain't even got enough money to pay for my babysitter.
On this good earth, there are three peoples I don't mess with. The I, the aura, and the S.
But I got my babysitter.
Look, if you don't like working for Luther's janitorial, why don't you just take your broke ass home?
In the beginning of 2005, I was approached by the mother of one of my friend's children, herself a friend of mine, but our acquaintance was made through him. She laid out a proposition for me. She would allow me to claim her kids on my tax returns if I would give her a decent amount of it. I had just turned 20 years old. I've been working since I was 17. I was used to my mother doing my taxes and me getting back $200, give or take. So when she explained how the return would be thousands of dollars, of course I was down. Truth be told, I had done more for less. The return was around $4,800. Her cut was $2,000, leaving me with a whole lot more than $200 this time. Well, a couple years later, I received a letter from the I, the aura, and the S. And immediately after reading that letter, I understood why Luther wasn't willing to pay TT under the table. Because they wanted everything back plus some. I would set up an agreement for them to garnish $250 out of every check until that debt was paid off. That would affect 24 checks. And being that I was paid bi-weekly, that would amount to $6,000 in just under 1 year's time. And if I had to do it all over again, it would be done just the same. Not because of my you live and you learn mentality, but because of my reason for doing it in the first place. I had just turned 20 years old on January 27th. My first child was born February 23rd. At the time of that proposal, I didn't have everything she needed to come into this world. I didn't have enough diapers or formula. I didn't have a bassinet, a crib, a stroller, or a car seat. Other than a bunch of cute fits and toys that we got from the baby shower, we didn't have much. My first child coming into this world with everything I felt like she needed was priceless to me. So when I was given that opportunity, I jumped on it. Now I know some of you listened to that story and you came to the conclusion that that wasn't a very smart decision to make. And you are absolutely correct. But when faced with the alternative, especially if you yourself are a parent, I know there are many amongst us who would have made the same decision. Because that's the type of sacrifice parents make every single day. I'm not just talking about the regular stuff, working 2 jobs to provide for their kids. No, there are people who were sentenced to prison for sending their children to school in a different district. Parents who were sentenced to prison for partaking in cheating and admission scandals to get their kids into college. Parents who are sitting in a cell right now because they squared up with other kids to stop them from bullying theirs. Parents who have moved to a different city, a different state, a different country because they felt like that would give their kids a better chance. Every year there are parents selling things, pawning things, taking out loans to put presents under a tree or provide that birthday celebration they dreamed of, just to see the smile on that child's face, to see someone they love unconditionally experience genuine happiness. It's fucking priceless. And I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong either. I'm simply pointing out the sacrifices that parents are willing to make. These sacrifices happen every day across the globe. But just as there are parents who will give their life or do a life sentence behind their kids, there are parents that are absolute shit. Parents who by no means should have had a child under their care. And we know this to be true. That's why a lot of us look at our mothers as superheroes, because of the countless sacrifices they made when raising us. But truth be told, a lot of our mother stories resemble the stories of the women we speak negatively about today. See, we look at our mothers differently, not only because the sacrifices they made directly benefited us, but also because we have the context that allows us to understand why they made some of the decisions they made. But because we have no attachment to Keisha, Nicole, Tasha, Whitney around the corner, we don't give them that same grace. Oh, we game when it comes to talking about them. The name that's attached to a story should not determine how we view that story. Shannon Sharpe said on numerous occasions how one of his old coaches, and I believe it was Mike Shanahan, said that he would not accept anything in a win that he wouldn't accept in a loss. That should be all of us. If you wouldn't condemn your mother for these actions, don't fix your mouth to condemn these sisters. Again, context matters. If you don't have the context to the situation, don't speak on that situation. That's how false narratives get created. And there are too many narratives in our communities that hurt people because they lack context. Context is the difference between murder and self-defense. But since I'm already using Set It Off as a reference, let me tap into it a bit further to get our minds really turning on this. For those who have seen the movie and can recall it vividly, was TT a bad mother? Did she bring her child to work every day? Or was that a one-off situation? Was the money that was now going to taxes being taken away from a babysitter? I've taken the liberty to put the links to those clips in the description so that those who have not seen that movie or haven't seen it in a while can make an informed decision. I find the contrast between the comments on the videos interesting. Now I'm going to use a different scene in that film to create my own hypothetical for us to use going forward. I'm going to ask a question that I want you guys to answer honestly to yourselves at least. If a mother is struggling to provide for her child, and she experiences an additional hardship out the blue that obviously affects the child, and she has no way in this particular moment of coming up with what she needs, aka she's in a bind, Nate, and she calls on a man that she knows is in a position to help her, and that man is willing to help her, but only under a certain condition, and that condition puts her at a, we'll say, less than desirable position. But she goes through with it anyway because she needs this for her child. Does that make her a 304? Or is she just a mother willing to sacrifice anything for her child? And if the man that she calls on for help helps her without laying out a certain condition, does that make him a simp? Or is he just a man that's unwilling to prey on a woman coming to him in a vulnerable state? We know what society would say about them today. She's tainted, unmarriageable, a 304. He's a simp, a weak man, a Captain Save-A-Pro. When in actuality, she possesses the type of selflessness and willingness to sacrifice that all mothers should. And he possesses the type of integrity and willingness to be of service that all men should. Those are commendable traits. Because if you're in a position to help, but the help is conditional on having someone degrade themselves in order to obtain it, you're a piece of shit. Let's be very clear about that. Nate was a piece of shit. But if you're in a position to help and you don't want nothing in return, but you also don't want to be labeled a simp, a weak man, a Captain Save-A-Pro by your fellow man, and like Brother Shatelko has stated numerous times, dignity is a human requirement, and that's controlled by your fellow man. What's the move? Do y'all see how these narratives hurt our communities? These are harmful narratives that are both created by and vilified by people in our communities. We have to recognize that, be accountable, and be better. And yes, there are everyday transactions that take place on select avenues across your city. Vegas is well known for it. They are 304s. And there are men who are going to constantly enable a woman's irresponsible behavior, her irresponsible decisions, every single chance they get. They are simps. Those men and women are deserving of their labels. And like I said yesterday, we don't need to defend that. However, grace needs to be shown in situations where the context, as we like to say, makes it make sense.